And good evening to you all. Thank you very much for joining us this Friday evening. So this week is all about ganchos and enganches, so things that wrap around other things. You'll actually discover what you can do with ganchos, starting with Paula Duarte right here.
Let's start gancho away. Although before we start, I think today's disclaimers are kind of important.
Okay, cool. So if you do ganchos, make sure that you don't have, what was the thing again? What was you say?
I've been doing it all the time. It's okay.
Make sure that you're in good form and that you have you've done a bit of sit-ups before. No, that's not the one.
I mean, that always helps, of course.
Go for it.
But, okay, so I'll just run quickly through the disclaimer before we start. Please make sure you are well enough to attend this class and note that by joining in any form, you are automatically agreeing to the terms and conditions stated on the description of this video as well as on the website. It helps repeating it so often, no?
I guess yes, it does.
For the memory,
It does.
I mean.
So leaders and followers. We start with followers with Paula for 45 minutes, little break, and leaders in approximately 1 hour, all about ganchos and enganches. Have fun. See you later.
Let's start.
All right.
Okay guys, so let's warm up together and then we will get into the main part of the class, okay? So gather your center, taking the hips back, rolling the shoulder blades back and flexing both legs, pushing. Really pushing from both legs, keeping the spine straight, everything in its right alignment, shoulders on top of the hips. Okay, now we want to do the same thing with rotation of the upper body. So I'm trying to keep as straight as possible as I'm going to dissociate from side to side, keeping the frame close to me so we don't need a big space here. Shoulder blades down, hips facing forward. Okay, now without again, so see how that differs in sensation. That sensation of spine straight. Okay, I'm bringing the rotation again. Okay, let's go for a second if you need. Going to do a little balancing exercise, bringing that leg up, taking your time sliding down, transferring the weight, drop the hip. At the same time, you're going to pull from the center, and take your time sliding down, and change. Now start bringing a little bit of upper body dissociation, drop, and upper body dissociation. Take your time here. You really don't want to rush that transfer of the leg. Last time. Okay. So our feet a little bit. We're going to point forward, flex, flex and point. So really trying here to drop the hip but pull from the center. Yeah, so you create this opposition that is giving you a good balance. Okay, and change one more time. Stretch forward, hips back, pulling from the center. And change. Okay, good. Well done. Okay guys, so let's start talking about today's topic. So as you probably already know, we are going to be speaking about ganchos. And gancho literally means hook. More typically is going to be a movement that is going to hook your free leg to the leader's free leg. There is also a difference between ganchos and enganches. Typically, gancho is more linear, it doesn't have to, but typically is more linear, and enganche or wrap has more circularity in and out. We are going to mainly concentrate on ganchos today. We have done some classes on ganchos in the past, if I'm not mistaken. You should find them in the library. So today we're going to be mainly trying to break down the technique for the gancho and how we can create good situation, good balance, so we can have a comfortable and confident situation. Okay, so we're going to start with the first exercise. I'm going to turn around to show you. I'm going to take a side step and I'm going to drop on my left hip. Okay, so if you haven't dropped yet, please make sure you drop. Okay, and now I am going to start rotating my right side and I'm going to close my right hip. Close my right hip, but I'm not going to close into my collection. I am going to close in the sense of bringing the leg this way, but then I am going to bring that leg in my gancho position, which is going to be passing the standing leg with a flexion of the knee, keeping the alignment, shoulders, hips and ankles together. So be careful that you are not going to do that, okay? I don't think you would, but just pay attention to those subtleties, okay? So really trying to keep the alignment of the hips. And then I am going to have a little bit of opposition here. Show you this angle. I'm going to have opposition. First I arrive, and then opposition. I am going to bring my leg forward into flex position, and then return into my neutral side step. So, very controlled. There's no need to change the dynamic yet. I'm just going to work with those two opposite forces of my right shoulder rotating to the right, my right leg going to the left, and trying to keep the alignment at the same time without dropping the shoulders or the hips. Now, one thing that I find really helpful in terms of keeping the alignments is to think that the shoulder blades are going to keep facing down. If I am going to bring my upper body into a different position at the moment of the gancho, that might actually take me out of alignment. So I want to try to keep my shoulder blades down as I am creating opposition. So you're going to feel right away, you're going to have a little bit more stability. Now, another point to watch out for is that your weight is spread completely through that standing leg, and you are not trying to create the gancho from being with the weight in the middle, so the weight in two legs, but you really want to try and arrive to the end of the side step with the intention of parking in the left hip, and then you indicate to the leader that you've arrived. From here, we have much more control to play with that free leg. Now, a challenge for you, try to do this as slowly as possible to start with. So, in order for me to have control, to understand how to create this movement in and out in a controlled way, I have to make sure that I am not going to step out of the situation because I'm rushing the exit, for example. So, I'm really going to take my time here, create opposition, and go back to that neutral side step, which means I am still on my left. I have not gone into the middle yet, but I've stayed on my left. Now, once you're comfortable with taking your time, and only then, we can then increase the dynamic to create a little bit more sharp. So, it's going to feel a little bit like the boleo, but not quite, because the position of the boleo is a little bit different in the sense that it's going to be much closer from your center, from the standing leg, whilst the gancho leg is open in front of you, because you're going to create, just give me a second, you're going to create interaction with the leader's leg. So this is why the gancho happens in front of you and not on the side here, because this is a boleo. Okay, so you can try if you want, if you have a stick available to you, can have it in front of you, and then gently in and out without too much energy. So you don't want this to happen. You really want to control that free leg in and out. Okay, keeping the level of the height of the hip. Let me put this away for now. So, let's try it together with different dynamics. Just one thing though before we start. When you try to do the gancho with a faster dynamic, it's usually because the leader is going to give you more impulse or quicker tempo for the gancho. So to make it consequential, you really want to be careful that you do not separate the intention that you receive in your upper body with the intention of your free leg. In other words, the free leg should mirror the impulse of the frame. So the impulse of the rotation you receive in the frame should mirror how much impulse your free leg is going to have. So if I'm going to have a quick dissociation, my gancho is going to be faster. If I am going to have a slower dissociation, a slower rotation, my leg is going to go according to the time of the rotation of the frame. So you don't want to go slow in the frame and quick in the leg. It's not really possible also, but it's not help you to think that way. So think, same timing, I'm going to have my rotation, same time, I'm going to have the speed of my free leg going to the gancho. So let's try it together with music. Okay. So we do the side step, and now slow. Okay, try the other side. Okay, now with a little bit more dynamic. Okay, try both of them on the right back. Okay, now let's continue talking about the ganchos, not on the side step situation, but on the back step situation. And we're going to have different dynamics, of course, in the same way they go to the side. But now we are going to have two different kinds. We are going to have the ones with dissociation and the ones with association. So, if I'm going to take a back step, and of course I am going to utilize my sensor to control the landing, pressing the toes, I am going to make sure I arrive completely. Here, I am going to go into my associated gancho, in which my upper body goes with the lower body. You can see, it's together and come back. Usually these kind of ganchos are very slowly in and out. Okay, so the leader is going out to my left and I would hook my left leg on his right leg. So I am going with association and I come back, so my upper body, my hip open to the same side. If it's needed to do a little bit more pivot, it means if the leader is going to turn me a little bit more, I would then need to do a little bit more pivot. So instead of just going in and out, I would go with a little bit of pivot on my standing leg. You see, same thing, only one is without the pivot and one is with pivot. Okay, so please do make sure that you keep your alignment. Again, this is so important for ganchos. Shoulders with hips. So it's going to be very tempting to do that. Okay, you really want to ground on your standing leg, and very important, ladies and gentlemen, use your spiraling technique. Hopefully the leader is going to lead you to that naturally. And what is the spiraling technique? It's basically a combination of different things all together in one place. I'm starting with my height at a neutral level, and I am going to end my spiral with flexion of my standing leg. Now another thing is, I am going to start with my intention of the upper body, and then the lower body is going to catch up. Yeah, so I'm going to start, leader is taking me that way, and then everything is catching up. So, if you feel that you are going into your gancho in a very blocky way, it could be that you're not using enough spiraling. Okay, we want to keep talking about the spiraling context, because it's so super important for any kind of gancho that you're going to do that has a little bit of association or dissociation. Okay, so now once you have worked that out, I'll repeat one more for the ones who are just logged in. You can then have a little bit of a different attitude. Instead of associating, you're going to dissociate. But I think maybe let's try this one first with the music. Okay, take your time. Start with the back step and push, control the arrival, start your spiral and then take the lower body with you. Okay, and we repeat. Arrive and gancho and come back. Okay guys, have a quick try of that and try to both sides as well. Yeah?
Soy una canción desesperada, hoja enloquecida en el turbión. Por tu amor mi fe desorientada se hundió destrozada mi corazón. Dentro de mí mismo me perdí, ciego detrás de una ilusión. Soy una pregunta empecinada que grita su dolor y su traición. ¿Por qué me enseñaron a amar? Si es volcar sin sentido los sueños al mar, si el amor es un viejo enemigo que enciende castigos.
Okay, now let's have a look at the gancho on the other side, and we are going to apply more dissociation. So this is going to be a different feeling and a different look. So we are going to start with taking a back ocho with your left leg, okay? And now I am going to transfer towards my back and rotate at the same time. So here I'm already dissociating, yeah? So I'm gonna step back and dissociate, and I'm already preparing my standing leg because my gancho ideally is going to happen with a good angle. So you don't want this to happen, and that will happen if you do not connect your standing leg with your free leg. So if I'm doing that, it means I'm not connecting my pivot. So I need to connect my pivots, and as a consequence my hip is going to readjust, and now I am stable for that gancho. Yes, so let me try this way. Okay, so take your center over the standing leg, and now as you arrive, already start turning your hips to the left and your upper body to the right. So take your time, because I'm really looking for you to feel these moments where you're gonna have the opposite directions of movement happening within your center. So you have hips to the left, shoulders to the right. Now, when I'm arriving to the end, you see that my position is already established. So you do not have to rush and do everything together, yeah? So arrive. Ideally, the leader is going to anticipate already this arrival before you get there. He is giving you that pivot already. So you're going to feel contact with your right leg, and then you're going to be able to do the gancho here. Now, let me try it with the stick so you can see how it looks like. So I'm going to pass the stick so we can have a good angle. So have your stick behind your right side here. And then, so it's a little bit further, closer to that middle, let's say. And then I am going to arrive, and my back of the knee is going to have contact for the gancho. So why am I doing the gancho here? In this particular case, because there's different circumstances that come together. So I'm having the leader's leg in the way, so that means that I can't continue going anywhere without leg interaction. So if he's sending me with rotation, instead of me doing a circular side step, is then creating a gancho, because my leg cannot go around to my collection. Does that make sense? So another thing that is provided here for you, hopefully, is the change of height. So that's what I was referring to, the spiraling. So I have my change of height. I am going to start with the straight receiving leg. Okay. I straighten the knee to arrive with my rotation. Now when I'm arriving here, this is going to depend how quick the leader is going to lead the gancho, but my leg is still straight. And now both legs are going to work together. My left leg flexes, my right leg flexes, together with rotation and coming back to neutral. So see if you can get that feeling. Okay. Now notice that I'm not holding onto the stick, and this is really important because the gancho dynamic, it's a hook that does not stay hooked very long unless there is a freeze during the moment of the gancho. But usually the very basic dynamic of the gancho is in and out. In and out. Okay, so unless it's a slower gancho, of course, but if this is going to be a classic basic gancho, is going to be led with quite a lot of tempo or momentum, so that your leg can come out naturally. So we let the weight of the gravity bring, or the barrier that my leg finds, bring my leg back, but I'm going to do that in a controlled way instead of falling into it. Okay, let me turn around. So let's go through the exercise one more time. So I'm going to have the stick behind me slightly, and I'm going to take a step forward. Okay, so maybe a good reference would be to have the stick in the middle, and then from here you can have your arm here, or you can have your arm here. It's up to you. But I would like you to concentrate on arriving already with pivots, and then gancho and come back. And gancho and come back. And gancho and come back. So see if you find a really nice, comfortable, easygoing feeling for that gancho. Let's try it together with music. So let's try maybe both of them in comparison, but we start with this one and then I'll demonstrate the previous one more time. So stick in the middle, and now taking my center back, rotation, gentle kick. With both legs. Your time, guys.
tiempo enemigo que enciende castigos y enseña a adorar. Yo pregunto por qué, si por qué me enseñaron a amar, si al amarte mataba mi amor.
Okay, so as always, whenever you need more time, feel free to stop this video, pause, and then return when you're ready. We are going now to speak a little bit about a different gancho. It's a little bit more challenging this time. And I'm going to show you with the sticks first what kind of gancho we are talking about, and then I'll break it down for you. So here it is. So we actually have looked at this last Wednesday, I believe, and it's called the reversed gancho. So what happens is my space is now going to be the middle of the leader's leg, so he is actually in line with both legs, and he is going to send me into a patada and a reversed gancho. So what happens in this case is that I'm going to have a change of fronts, and my gancho is not going to happen in intersection with his leg, but it's going to happen in intersection with his tailbone. Yes, you heard me right. So this has to be done gently, of course, because what we want here is that situation where I am going to reverse my fronts, but I am still, so reverse the front of my hips, but I am still going to create quite a lot of dissociation here, especially in this case, because I am going to create that gancho with my dissociated position. So, super difficult exercise. However, it's simple in its own way. It's just a little bit challenging because we are not used to dissociate that much. So, to help yourself, press down a little bit the sticks, and you can have your arms lowered a little bit. That's going to make your shoulder blades go down, and then extending your leg forward and trying to rotate inside of that space to go into your gancho. So you can see my leg is as pivoted as possible. From here, I'm going to come back into the collection. Now I'm going to increase the dynamic a little bit to go here, here, and back. This gancho usually has quite a lot of momentum because it's combined with a forward ocho, with a patada, and a reversed gancho. This is sliding a little bit on the floor right now because it's very slippery. I'll try one more time. So you have patada, flick, reversed gancho, and come back. So you see your space is very linear. Yeah, so you're going to go forward and then gancho behind. So do not try to do this too slowly because the leader would not do it correctly if you would try to slowly. So the idea here is to have a sharp change of front. So this gancho itself is quite energetic. Patada, reverse, and coming back. So think about your back volley position. Think about your back volley position. Only now I am going to have as much dissociation as possible. Okay, so now try with the other side. Or, okay, so it is a little bit challenging to be able to have that amount of dissociation. However, the more you practice, the more flexibility the spine will develop over time. Okay, so let's try together with music. There's only one way of trying, is doing it. So without further ado, let's try. So really try to gain some momentum to go from your forward chop into patada, gancho, and come back. Forward chop, patada, gancho, and come back. Okay, try one more time. Forward chop, patada, gancho, and come back. Trying to get that sharp
grita su dolor y tu traición.
Okay, now let's have a look at another situation where we are going to have a rebound step followed by a gancho. So in this situation we are using the frame a little bit more than the arrival of the standing leg, then the pivot and then the dissociation, but we are using more the elasticity in and out of the frame. So if I'm going to be in a situation of being my rebound forwards and my leader is going to ground me, he could then use that space to do a gancho himself. So another possibility that could happen is I am going forward, so he's really stopping me there with elasticity here, and then I could have a gancho and go back into that elastic fourth position. So open, gancho and forward. It does feel a little bit the dynamic of the bolero because somehow the circumstances here make the gancho be a little bit more energetic. It doesn't have to be though, okay? So this is going to really very much depend on how much impulse you're going to receive after your rebound, because it could also be very gentle. So you can see my upper body is going to the left and my leg is going into the gancho. So not associating as we looked before, but dissociating. So you can try again if you want. Both feelings are completely different, associating or dissociating. Either way, really try to use that push from the standing leg to come back to the standing, so from your right leg, so from the forward leg, into that standing leg, because this gancho is created by really utilizing that elasticity, not just in the frame, but also using the power of the legs. So now let's try to the left with the same idea. Ground, so my right leg is stretched, my left leg is flexed, and then push to come back. Forward and come back. Forward and come back. So really try to use that power pushing from the standing leg, and when you're ready, you can go gancho, stretch, gancho, stretch, gancho. What happens if we combine both sides and we do a boleo as an adorno in between? We're going to then create a sequence that we're going to have rebound, gancho, boleo, pivot. And then here, you will take a step back and you're ready for the other side. Rebound, gancho, boleo, pivot, and step. Rebound, gancho, boleo, pivot, go left. Okay? So let's try the sequence together one more time. Stretch and gancho, boleo and pivot. Okay? Now here, if you do not have much space, you can also alternatively change your weight on the spot and then repeat on this side. And change. Forward, gancho, boleo and change. Gancho, boleo and change. Now I want you to pay attention to one particular point. I really try my best to make the ganchos and the boleos consequential. Even if I am doing this without a partner, it will feel and look very different if you're trying to create the movement just from using the lower body. So let me show you how it would look like if you're just using the legs. You see, there's no consequentiality here. Everything is happening from the free leg. However, if you utilize the energy, the rotation, the contrast of your upper body again, again, again. Here, rotation, rotation, rotation. Do you see how much more dense and grounded the movement becomes? So if something is not feeling quite right, it might be because you're not utilizing all your bodies, you're not moving, you're not generating the movement with all your body. So something to keep in mind. Okay, let's try the sequence together with music. Sorry, this is the wrong one. Okay. Take your time, okay? Okay guys, have a go, enjoy.
Soy una canción desesperada, hoja enloquecida en el turbión. Por tu amor mi fe desatada se hundió destrozada mi corazón. Dentro de mí mismo me perdí, un ciego de una ilusión. Soy una pregunta empecinada que grita su dolor y tu traición. ¿Por qué me enseñaron a amar? Si es volcar sin sentido los sueños al mar, si el amor es un viejo enemigo que enciende castigos y enseña a llorar. Yo pregunto por qué, oh sí, por qué me enseñaron a amar, si al amar.
Okay guys, just one very quick tip here if you're still doing this one right now. It's going to be very tempting to have your frame very far away from your body to compensate for all the work that your lower body is doing. I'd like you to fight against that and try to keep the frame close to your center. Also, when you are going to be doing this with partner, it's much better to compress a little bit more the embrace, because that is going to help you to have those quick pivots. So think about it when you're doing the exercise alone. Try not to have too much expansion, so keeping that frame close to your body. So anytime that you have to do quick changes, your reaction time is faster because you are including the frame, keeping it compressed. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So let's move on to the final thing for today. And I'm going to do a small sequence with some adornos. And basically we are going to combine the different sorts of ganchos that we've done today. Yeah, so different sensation and different leading that you should receive for each one. So we are going to start with one of my favorite adornos to enter our rebound step forward, so going to the gancho. So we are going to have a little bit of a rulo here. From here I'm going to continue with my right leg forwards to go into my rebound. From here I'm going to have gancho, voleo and stepping back, so similar with the other one that we did. Okay? So far so good. Now from here I'm going to take my center over the standing leg and I'm going to include the gancho with association right away. The moment you step back, you're going to reverse that direction by going with the associated gancho. From here, I'm going to cross on the spots, bringing my rotation to the other side. And now I'm going to have a crossed gancho here, which means it's going to feel very much like a voleo, but it's going to have contact with the leader's leg, and that's why it's going to become a gancho. And that is the end of your sequence. And coming back to collection. So let's wait a few times and then I'll break down for you with more technical detail. I'm going to take a forward step, rulo, into my stretched rebounds, gancho, voleo, step and gancho and cross and gancho. So you see, there's a lot of rotation, a lot of adjustment going. So try to make this consequential, okay? So the sequence will not feel or look right like any other thing, like any other gancho or voleo, unless you do it consequentially. So really try to see how the movement is starting. For my rulo, I'm not going to explain the rulo because I have done this in a lot of classes. I've already spoken about this. So I'm just going to go quickly through the rulo. And now, forwards, gancho, voleo, and step, and gancho, and cross, and gancho, and collect. Okay, few times. Rulo forwards, rebounds, gancho, voleo, step, gancho, cross, gancho, collect. Control, my friends. This is your best friend. Okay? So, really land well. Always prioritize the landing of that standing leg before you go and do anything with your free leg. I arrive, I arrive, I arrive, I arrive, stay. I arrive, gancho, arrive, crossing, deep cross left over right, create space for replacing the other gancho and come back. Making sense so far? Okay, maybe let's try it once with the music and then I'll give you some time to try, and if I have some time left I'll give you some more technical detail. Take your time, okay? Don't rush through anything. One more time.
Desesperada, hoja enloquecida en el turbión.
Okay, a few more times together.
Se hundió destrozado mi corazón. Dentro de mí mismo me perdí, ciego de tanta ilusión. Soy una pregunta empecinada que grita su dolor y tu traición. ¿Por qué?
Hey guys, I'm going to try that.
Si el amor es un viejo enemigo que enciende castigos y enseña a llorar. Yo pregunto por qué, o si por qué me enseñaron a amar, si al amarte mataba mi amor. Burlando de dar todo por nada y al fin ya dio despertar, llorar.
Alright guys, it's time to wrap up. Hopefully you found this class interesting, so really try and take your time. Do not rush through the sequence and watch in slow motion this video if it helps you, and really pay attention for each intentional transfer of the weight and intentional rotation before any gancho or any wrap or any voleo, okay? So really try and see, try to find where the generator is, where the movement, sorry, can't speak anymore at the end of the day, where the movement is generated from, and you might find a lot of insights and understanding. So let's call Bruno back. Here he is. Did you have a good time?
Yes, I don't know how to answer to
He
that.
went 3 times around the world.
To the plane, went by boat, everything.
Lovely.
That was good.
Next time is my turn.
So we hope that it was useful, leaders and followers, or at least followers. In 15 minutes, leaders, so stay put, have a little bit of something to drink if you are dehydrated, and we shall be back in 15 minutes at 8 o'clock for leaders on the same topic.
So I will be seeing you guys in the next class, but please remember that if you want to get in touch with us at any time, the links are in the description of this video as well. We always love to hear from you. So have a great break.
Alright, see you
guys soon.
later. And a very warm welcome back tonight, this Friday. We have prepared my apologies, something around ganchos and ganches. So I will give you a few moments to explain the context, the difference between ganchos and ganches, and we'll take a look at the different exercises that were prepared for you to practice at home to better your enganches and ganchos in terms of doing and in terms of leading. So hopefully this will be quite extensive and will give you lots of ammunitions for the next time you try your ganchos and ganches. So to actually start with a bit of context, ganchos and ganches. So of course this actually is quite wide. We use them all the time in tango. Gancho refers to a hook when the leg is actually doing some kind of hook with the follower's leg or one of our legs, and enganche is the same mechanics but more it's actually translated as wrap, and actually the enganche implies the more circular movement. So remember, leaders, gancho is linear, enganche is circular. So this is something that is actually interesting to mention. And of course, in terms of the lead, it differs if you do a gancho and an enganche. We'll see what is the impact on the embrace and on the axis when we lead. Of course, there's also something which is related to the boleo. We had a look at boleos in the past, and when you're practicing by yourself, a boleo and a gancho often are the same thing because you don't have an extra leg to wrap around. But that doesn't matter because it's still going to be very useful to look at the technique and maybe apply a little bit of boleo technique into our gancho, as we will see today. So let's start with our first chapter, if you like, doing or creating ganchos or leader ganchos. That can happen in our dance as a couple of things. First, as a decoration, but also as a means to catch that lady's leg in some situations, and we'll see which ones right now. So let's start with a little exercise. I'm going to face this direction. I'm going to switch on the lights. Okay. So I'm going to have a first exercise where I'm going to do a side step, and I'm going to look to show you from this angle because I would like you to see what I do with my hips. I'm going after my side step to go and bring my hip to bring that foot around and that leg around. Note that I'm not going forward or backwards too much. I try to maintain the hip. There's a little bit of forward movement because of that rotation, but I'm not sending my hip back or down as I could show you here. So if I show you facing the camera, I really maintain my hips here for that little gancho, if you like, or self gancho, boleo. I'm going to do it with a side step. So I'm going to do my side step, and here I'm going to take my leg around and I'm going to gently take it back here. Why is it important to try this exercise? They look, of course, very, very simple, but the idea is to be careful, leaders, not to do this. See, this is very, very tempting to go down with the hip, so you need to bring the hip to really level with the other hip here, and do not try to go further with your leg. It's unnecessary and it's going to make you lose your balance, or at least your vertical alignment. So make sure that as you do your side step, you bring your hip a little bit around and you send the leg and the foot back. It's back. Yeah? So if I do show you again this angle, it's back and it's not side this way. Yes? This is not a good boleo. This is more like a quattro, if you like. So we try to achieve that element of circularity with the leg, and I really take my time for this foot to go around the other foot and to come back. So let's do it with a bit of music. We are going to do it on both sides, and I recommend you leaders that you have a quick check about the area around the core to make sure that you really contract this inwards to have that element of control. One. Yes, be careful. No. See, it's actually very difficult. It's this. It's there. So you have a little bit of rotation around the standing leg, but not too much, so that you don't lose your balance. Music. So, and one, and we open to the other side, and one, and take your time, around. So when you come back here, you can go into Bruno if you want to play. One. And side. Note leaders that as I'm doing my decoration, I'm not going forward. Careful. Here is necessary. Again, stretch nicely here and keep that element of verticality when you do your decoration.
Acunado entre los soles de bandoneones nació este gallo, nació por verme sufrir en este horrible vivir donde agoniza mi suerte. Cuando los árboles bailan, siento hacer por eso que esta noche siento el reproche del perdón. La abandoné, no sabía de que la estaba queriendo y desde que ella se fue siento truncada mi fe, muriendo.
Alright, I give you a few seconds to practice and I shall be back with the next exercise. Only all around the boleos and
ya no la puedo encontrar, a dónde iré sin su amor. La abandoné y no sabía que el corazón me engañaba. Y hoy que la vengo a buscar, ya no la puedo encontrar, a dónde iré sin su amor.
Alright, so let's continue. Now a little exercise for balance. I'm going to go into a little boleo here and I'm going to add at the same time a quarter turn. So I'm going to go one and I'm going to go out and then another one and out, one. See here, I'm going out and I'm going to go back. My knees are connecting and I try to stay straight. And this pivot happens as I'm doing my decoration here, my gancho. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So a couple of tips for you guys to work or to be aware of. First of all, make sure that as you do your boleo, you are going to bring your leg around and you are going to make sure that this is not happening. You don't drop the hip or you don't lower higher, make the hip go higher. You kind of keep on the floor both the horizontal alignment of the hip and you're going to bring your leg around until you have a knee connection. So if I show you in this angle, you see that there is no space here. And I use this as a mechanism to increase my dissociation so I can easily pivot and do my boleo. Here, pivot, and I do my boleo. My gancho, of course. Here and here, gancho to the front and coming back. So let's do it with a bit of music. Miguel Calo today. direction, quarter turn, up, and gancho, 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 gancho. Okay? Few seconds to rest your legs, and let's start again. And gancho. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can accelerate a little bit here to make it more continuous. And this becomes a wheel in the back. Okay, shake your legs a bit, try to relax, and let's continue. So, gancho, pivot, alright, a few seconds to relax your legs and continue.
Cuando me escucho sonar, cuando los salgo a bailar, siento más cerca la muerte. Y es por eso que esta noche siento el reproche del corazón. La abandoné, no sabía, dejé la espada queriendo. Y desde que ella se fue, siento truncada mi fe que va muriendo.
Okay, so let's continue, guys. So let's add a little bit of picante. What I did just now, I sent the leg and in, and know that I was a favor, meaning that I used my dissociation here to turn around the foot, this leg here, and I sent my leg to wrap. And every time I'm rebuilding the dissociation in the movements I'm trying to make, which is, in this case, towards my left, counterclockwise. Boom. Now I'm going to do the same, but I'm going to use a completely different energy. I'm not going to go together with my dissociation and the sense, the direction of pivots. This is a favor. I'm following the movement here. I'm following the movement. You can do it in half turns if you prefer. In this way. In this case, instead, I'm going to do against the movement. So I'm going to go a little bit back, and I'm going to send the leg this way, but I'm not going to dissociate this way. I'm going to have the torso go to the other way. So this time, I'm not going to do this with association with the leg. I'm going to do it against the movement, dissociation. So I'm going to go 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. So note that the energy is very different. If you go with the leg, you accompany the leg, you're a favor, together, or if you're against the movement of the leg. In this case, I send the leg to my left, but my torso is turning to the right, producing a much sharper twist in your spine, which makes it much quicker, and of course something that you can use in your dance when you want something that actually is a bit quicker, a bit sharper. So I'm going to start with back with the left and turning to the right, sending the hips in the opposite direction, creating that contra movement of hip and torso this way, boom. And that creates a lot of energy in the body here. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you like, you can make it a half turn. If you want to make it more with more energy, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's something that happens here is that my leg, which is supporting the weight, my weight-bearing leg, in this case the left, is going to push my right foot to exit, if you like, to really go out of this alignment. I'm not going to try to wrap and then go against the movement. So it's very important in terms of energy, in terms of how you manage your gancho. You're not going to go in and out, you're going to go out from the outset, from the start. So that actually allows you to have a much deeper sense of twist in the spine, therefore dissociation, therefore a bit sharper as a result. So a few seconds with music, Miguel Caló, and we're listening to L'Abandonné y no sabía. So, get ready, nice stretch, back, and I'm going to pivot, if you like, start with quarter turns. To do quarter turns, you don't need much connection with the floor. You can lift your foot up, if you like. More difficult, see? But I'm going to increase the amount of rotation to make it half turn. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Alright. So before we get dizzy, let's do it on the other side. So, I'm going this time to send my leg to the right, but my torso is going to the left. Here, here. Let's try half turn. So it's lower. Okay. Relax the legs. And you shall be back with another exercise to practice balance and coordination.
Cuando los hago bailar, siento más cerca la muerte. Y es por eso que esta noche siento el reproche del perdón. La abandoné, no sabía de que la espada quería.
So let's take a look at something that we can do to practice our ganchos. There is, of course, the followers gancho is much more common, and we're going to see that in a second. But for now, let's take a look at the leader's gancho. So the leader's gancho is, imagine you have your follower getting into hiro, and you have to catch the moment when she's in the right position for you to send the leg in between her legs in a gancho. So it's very, very important, of course, to be very, very careful that we don't actually kick the follower. And this is a few tips in terms of technique. So first of all, you need to understand that depending, of course, of the position, the angle has to be quite wide. So the lead has to go down as you prepare for a gancho. So let's say that you have a gancho and she's doing a side step here. You're going to catch this moment and having a down movement to slow her down and to make her perhaps have a slightly bigger opening, either sideways or forward. So this actually down movement is going to be the signal for her to really give you a little bit more time. Remember the problem or the mistake that is done often with leaders, boleros, which leads for the follower to be kicked, is that we try to do it very quickly, and as we do so, we accelerate the follower. And this is a big problem, of course, because the follower suddenly doesn't give us enough time or space to do the gancho, and it creates this kind of a situation where we kick the foot or the leg of the follower, and it's not going to be very pleasant. So remember to prepare by sending your follower to slow down and really ground her, so she's going to give you more time and space. Now once we're in the right position and we feel that there's space here to enter, we're going to have the leg go back first and have a little bit of an up movement. You don't need to go very, very high, guys, because remember, the idea is that we're not going to take too much risk for the follower. So just this and then forward. So how do I make sure that I have enough control? So first of all, what is very, very tempting when we kick our leg into between the legs of the follower is we tend to do this. And the problem here is I'm going to fall forward if I do that. So I'm going to try to maintain this verticality, and I'm going to have the hip open here, and I'm going to send that leg before I go forward. So this is the first thing. Stay straight with your torso before you exit, maybe with a side step. If you don't exit with a side step, it's possible, but you have to go back to neutral. Now there's a big tip that I would like to share, is that you're going to bend the standing leg a little bit as you exit. Why? If you stay a little bit up as you do your gancho, it might be okay, but as you exit, it's going to create a problem. Look at this. If that happens, you are suddenly lacking a very strong grounding of your supporting leg because you went a bit up. In all likelihood, you're going to be on your toes and you're going to probably fall forward. So what we need to do is make sure that we pass by your axis as we exit the gancho, and this is very important here. I'm going to do my gancho, and here I go a little bit down before I go forward. So I'm going to flex that leg, and I really make sure that I have control here before I go. So this is something that will definitely help the leader doing leader's ganchos. 1 and 2. So what you can do to practice is this little movement where I'm going to go do a little simple gancho to the back, and I'm going to point and touch next to the other leg, and this is where I make sure that I can bend this leg, but I don't contract my abs because I don't want to be forward. I need to be here. So remember the rule in tango in terms of technique, if you to actually work on balance, is the more you go down with the knee, the more you go up with the chest to counteract this feeling of collapsing forward. So I'm going to go and really up here as I bring my leg forward, or I stay here. 1, 2. I'm adding a little bit of a piqué here for extra design. 1, 2, and 3. So let's do it with music. Okay, ready? So, go. And control your movement. If you want, you can also control without stepping, just having a bit of protection here if you like, or stepping, depending on what you need.
Nació por verme sufrir en este horrible vivir donde agoniza mi suerte. Cuando me escucho llorar, cuando los salgo a bailar, siento más cerca la muerte. Y es por eso que esta noche siento el reproche del perdón. La abandoné, no sabía, dejé la espada cayendo. Y que regresa se fue, siento truncada mi fe, que va muriendo, muriendo. La abandoné.
Okay, let's try the other leg. Which is exactly the same movement. We're going to send your leg back. And feel that sensation of opening the hip before sending this foot. So you feel that happening. Kicking in between the middle and forward leg. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. That's 1. Alright, I'll give you a few minutes to practice. And as we have a few minutes for you to practice your leader's gancho. Okay. So if you have a broom, you can actually try to use it now, because what we're going to do is a side gancho for the leader. Well, I'm still not talking about followers ganchos, this will be covered as well. But what we are going to explore is if the follower is in a corte, so she's going back and she has that position here. I'm going to be able to enter that space with my foot and my leg. So this is going to represent the follower's foot and leg. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to imagine that I go out, and then I'm going to lower my hip and try to go as deep as I can before I push the follower's leg. So this is going to be possible in a heel. Imagine you're going forward, forward, back, side, catching that moment when you catch the lady's foot or lady's leg when she's going back. So if we practice with the stick, it's going to actually show the angles. So I'm going to go first forwards, and I'm going to have to open a little bit the hip. So I show her a little bit of the side this way, and as I go, I'm going to point and finally have a full push from the standing leg to the back leg. So I'm going to 1, 2, and 3. So note, leaders, which is an interesting realization, that I am not trying to attack with the heel. I'm really trying to go around with the foot, and I'm going to point the foot a little bit so that I'm not grazing onto her feet. It's not going to be very pleasant if you do so. Be very careful when you go around that this has to go up, the heel has to go up, and you're going to create more space by pivoting a little bit on your standing leg to have a bigger angle here. Remember, if you are actually in this angle with a lady, it's going to be easier than if your lady is completely on your side. So I'm going to adjust my hip position. Let me show you again with this little stick. So I'm not trying to catch here. I'm trying to create more space for myself by pivoting and then coming back here. So there's really this movement of the hip, movement over the hip there to create space for myself to have the space. Now this is something that, if you've seen some leaders do it in the milonga, will have to happen to prevent any major drama with the follower. So remember to open the hip or to pivot on the standing leg to create that element of pivot, and then you send the hip back. Yeah, so there's a bit of rotation and contra-rotation before you can catch this leg. Here, 1 and 2. 1 and 2. So why do we have a stick? Just to see, so that basically, if you have a kind of stick, is better because you will have the clear information on when the contact with the follower's leg will happen. So if you don't open the hips enough, then you'll see that the contact is very early. So see here, the contact is right there. I don't want it here, I want it higher by 1 bending and 2 going a bit more round. So it's like there. A bit of judo, a little bit if you like. So it's out and then bring your leg in. If you are not doing that, you actually feel the contact of the stick much earlier, and then there is no gancho possible because you are going to catch her foot with your heel. Yeah, so opening and closing. Nice. A few seconds for you to practice with the song. So, 1. practice. Alright, so let's carry on, leaders and followers, or I should say leaders only, not followers. Leaders, let's carry on. So, another little practice for you in terms of catching that gancho or the leader's gancho around your own foot is going to be having a little bit of a balance exercise where I'm going to pivot on one leg and I'm going to ensure that as I finish I have that voleo before I go forward, or if you prefer you can also do the same having half turn gancho approaches and back half turn here. So 1, 2, little rouleau and 3. 1, 2, little rouleau and 3. So here I really pay attention to what happens during my pivot. What I really want is to increase that element of pressure, not pressure but let's say engagement of the core, so that as I finish my pivot on one leg, first of all this is quite far, it's not, I'm not here with the foot, and two, I really have a good balance to have this gancho and little pivot after the rouleau without any balance issues. 1 here, I make sure I'm in axis and I send the leg and I come back. 1, 2 and 3. If this is too easy, you can increase the amount of pivots. 1, 2, 3. So for this to work, you really have to maintain that integrity of that supporting leg so that you have that element of support and you come back. 1 here, 2 and again 3 before coming back. 1, 2, 3. And so on and so forth. Up, 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 up. Okay, so this is a little exercise that you can practice, of course, on both legs. If you are going on the other direction, starting with half turn, gancho, and your little rouleau to come back. 1, 2, and there. 1, 2, and coming back here. So let's do it a few seconds with the music. Maybe slightly closer to camera. Here. Bending, and back, and there. 1, 2, 3.
Nació por verme sufrir en este horrible vivir, donde agoniza mi suerte. Cuando resulta llorar, cuando los hago a bailar,
Okay,
siento
few seconds for you guys to practice, and we'll open the next chapter.
pienso que esta noche siento el reproche del perdón. La abandoné, no sabía, dejé la espada queriendo, y desde que ella se fue, siento truncada mi fe.
So let's open a next chapter, which is not how to do boleros for ourselves as leaders, ganchos, approaches, but to lead the gancho to the follower. So basically I'm going to start with a very quick review or reminder of how to use the hip in tango. Remember, you can open the hip or close the hip. Now this is going to be very useful in what's coming. So if you want to practice a little bit that element of rotation of the leg, opening or closing, opening and closing. If you take the example of our own self gancho, if you like, or bolero, this one, you know that I will close the hip. Often the issue of loss of balance, if you do that, is because you're opening the hip, you end up in that position, and of course that actually is a bit more tricky for balance. So what you can do is close the hip instead, and imagine that you're sending the foot behind you and not to your side. Yeah, so this is something that might help. Now when it comes to leading the ganchos to the follower, I'm going to have to be very careful what I do with my hips and the two sides of my embrace. So let's assume that we have a parada. So I'm going to be in that situation, and I'm going to invite my follower above the foot, and to lead the gancho I'm going to do three things. One, I'm going to invite her back. Two, I'm going to have that hip opening. And three, I'm going to have the heel up. So it's a forward step and this happening. Now, what's very important to understand, this is the most classic gancho. I'm sure that most of you have done it already from the parada. The reason I'm mentioning this is because I want to explain the difference between, in this case, for the follower to do a gancho or a bolero around the other side. So, very important to understand that as I'm doing so I'm leading my forward step for the follower, as I'm taking her back, I need to use the right part of my embrace to take her around, not the left part. So right part as I come in to have that gancho happen, and she's going to do forward, she's going to feel that back step, and she's going to feel that element of lift a little bit because of your leg and your embrace going around this way. So there's a bit of up movements, but led with the right part of my embrace. Note that I'm not pivoting on the left is quite static, but the hip is definitely opening, or the leg is opening, to create a lot of space for the follower to get to that gancho. Now, how do I lead a bolero? In other terms, how do I push the leg of the follower to go to the other side? So this is what you can do. Instead of pulling with the right part of the embrace, you're going to push gently with the left part of the embrace, and you're not going to go up with the heel, and you're not going to open the hip. So it's going to be one. As you do this, she's going to be trapped with your leg, and it's going to make her go into a bolero because she feels that rotation and the fact that you're pushing with the leg. So note the main difference is not so much that you go up or down with the heel, is where the lead is coming from. Is it coming from the right part of your embrace, taking her towards you, pulling her into the gancho, or sending her away, having a little bit of transfer of axis and weight from left to right leg leaders. One. So note that here, the left part of my embrace is taking her around, and actually this is sending her leg to cross this way. Gancho, gancho, bolero, bolero. So note that it's exactly the same position when you start, but very different results. The leg between inside yours, or the leg of the follower going around her own in a bolero. So this is the first example of the difference between inward and outward energy. In another term, another way to see it is, the first is pulling in a linear way. This is what's called a gancho. Ganchos are linear, and as you see, so it's pulling in a straight line the leg of the follower. Please take this here, as opposed to pushing in a very circular way, producing a boleo because she has no choice, she has no space to enter into your space. So this is the first part. Now if you are basically, if you want to, if you are willing, you can try on the other side. Now the other side is going to be a bit more tricky because this part of the embrace has a bit less range to actually send around. So you're going to have to go a little bit up this way. You're going to have to pull with the left shoulder for the gancho and having a little bit of rotation. Know that it's a bit more tricky because she's a bit further, so you'll have to go a little bit further with the foot as well. You can't leave it here, it has to be a bit bigger. But interestingly, the boleo, so sending the leg about, is going to be easier. You just have to, in this case, use the right part of your embrace and accompany that movement around here. It's 1. So very interesting realization for me because to share, because basically it's important to understand that at any point of time the embrace, the left, center and right parts of the embrace are not going to work the same way, and if you use more one side or the other, it's going to create a very different result. So this is for the leaders to try when they have a partner to see what happens if I pull a bit more with the left or if I push a little bit more with the right, and you see that even if you forget about the leg, if it's always going up, if you do that, you're going to actually lead a boleo or like a self-gancho if you like. But if you do this and you stay in your axis, you pull that leg in a linear way, she's going to do a gancho. So very interesting way to look at it. So if we are looking at another lead, is the lead from backward ocho. I'm going to send my partner in a backward ocho. So 1, 2, and what I need to create for a gancho inside the backward ocho is to have the right position. So before I do that, I might say that in a gancho, you have different types of ganchos. Ganchos where there's a change of direction, such as the one which is the classic one, if you like, where you go up, 1 and 2, and then she goes over, so there's a change of direction with the embrace. And there's also the other type of gancho where there's no change of direction, it's more fluid because it's part of a certain move. So for example, if I'm going to be doing a backward ocho, I'm going to have to send her around me, and this is very important. You need to dissociate more with the left part of your right part of your embrace, leaders. Do not dissociate too much with the left because you're going to send her away. So more with the right, she's going to go more around you, and as you're here, you have the possibility to make a commit to the back leg and catch that gancho. So I'm going to do it back to camera. 1, 2, 3, pull, 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 and then bring your foot in between hers and continue pulling with the right. So there's a real sense of dissociation here to create that gancho, and then you are going to release and she's going to go gancho and feel that she can go forward. One more time. 1, 2, 3, pull, she steps, you put your foot in, and extra dissociation to catch that gancho, and finally, you can release into something else. So don't forget that you need to keep a little bit of dissociation for yourself for that gancho. If you use it all for the actual step around you, where she goes, she doesn't go side, she doesn't go linear, but she goes a little bit more around and feel that she needs to stay close to you. Then if you use all your dissociation, then you're in trouble because she will feel, oh, okay, I'm not sure what I need to do here because I lost a bit the signal. So keep a bit of dissociation for that moment. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Of course, it's going to be fluid, don't stop, but just to show you the stages. Here, around you, foot placement, gancho lead, and release. Good. So this is something that you can practice in your ganchos. So another lead which is quite interesting is the gancho, or I should say enganche this time because it's a little bit more circular, where the follower is going to be trapped with your leg, and she's going to want to rotate and go 1, 2, 3. So now why do I do a quattro? I don't do this, I do this because there's your leg in between, and you're going to trap her with her leg. So she's going to do a step to the right or to the left, and every time she feels there is a little bit of a wrap going on here, so she sends the leg up. So how do you indicate this, guys? In effect, what you need to do is understand the dynamic and the timing of the follower side step. You need to basically make a step and have the lead of basically rotating a little bit on 2 feet. So be careful that you don't send her too sharply, because if she's completely on this leg when you do the gancho, it's often too late. You need to actually send her when she's here. You take her to a tiny bit of rotation in the middle, and as you are sending your hip to rotate, she's going to feel, alright, there's a bit of an energy here to send my leg, because she's going to feel that you're committing that weight onto this supporting leg. So it's going to be, side step, catch that leg, catch and catch. So you're going to, once you've placed this leg here, you're going to go in opposite direction. If you're sending her this way, the leg is going a bit that way, and vice versa, and she's going to feel a constant repeated gancho in that sequence. So one of the very, very easy ganchos to get to catch, because she's from a side step and you're facing her, so it's very easy to know where to put your foot and make sure that you get the right timing. So this is something else to practice. One more thing that I like to mention is this one here, where the follower is going to get into a forward show, and rather than do another forward show, I'm going to stop her, and I'm going to be in that position where I'm going to be flexing on one leg, and she's going to go over my leg because I send her forward. So I think this is a forward show. Let me show you what the follower does for clarity. So she's going to going into forward show, and then here she feels there is your leg lined up suddenly here. So forward show, and then suddenly your leg is across, and she's going to feel the urge of going forward because you're going to lead her forward. So going over that, and of course you're going to remove this leg, and she's going to be able to step, and this is where the gancho will happen. So I'm going to send her there, and I'm going to send her back, having that element of opening, sort of closing of the hip, because I want to catch that leg, and I'm going to flex a little bit to allow a little bit of flexibility so it's not too harsh, and I'm going to catch that leg with a gancho. So it's going to be 1. Now, very, very interesting to mention that this has 2 possible uses, either a gancho in favor or a gancho a contra. This is where you're going to send her in and out, and you're potentially going to push that leg if you bring your leg a bit up to catch this moment where she's going to lift your leg, 1 and 2, or if you prefer, you can catch that leg, but rather than a gancho, you can make her do a gancho and push your leg to finish with a hero. So what's the big difference here? The big difference is, on one hand, you're going again to use the left part of her embrace as a block, so she doesn't go further than this. If you say stop, gancho, and come back, stop and come back, note that this is not opening, and the part that is actually creating that willingness to go back and do a gancho is the left part of the embrace. Second version, which is a favor or together, not contra, is when you're going to catch this leg, but you're going to continue opening here. So what is she going to do? She's going to go over the leg, she will feel a gancho, and then she'll feel, alright, he wants me to continue into a hero. So this is where you're going to catch that leg here, and you're going to open here. She's going to push your leg, and maybe finish with a parada. So open as opposed to close, the left part of the embrace. The right part has exactly the same rule of sending that leg back to create that gancho. So either in contra or a favor, sending the leg up and there. So this is something that we explored on Wednesday for the gancho class if you're interested to see how it looks with the follow, but just a few things for the leader to consider in terms of embrace, in terms of the different parts of your lead, how it works and where the lead is coming from. So I think this is pretty much summarizing what was prepared. Last, maybe for today in terms of the lead, is the enganche in hero. So you're going to send her into a hero, and as she's going to do the side step, you're going to catch this leg here. Now, very important, leaders, if you catch, so she's going to go forward, side, and you want to catch this leg here to do that before she goes back. So how do you do that? So actually, it's a classic mistake again to do in tango, to put the leg here, but to sand her with the left part of the embrace. Again, this is not going to work because she will feel her leg is ejected and she has no chance for the enganche or the wrap. So what I need to do, leaders, is as I send my partner into a side step, I'm going to keep this part with me and the right part is sanding around me, but she feels that basically there's a rotation in front of you as opposed to rotation away from you. So this is how she's going to go forward, side, alright, okay, and gancho happens, or enganche happens naturally in your hero, something that we also explore on Sunday this week. So we hope that, Paula and I hope that this was useful for you today. Have a few considerations about the gancho, a few exercises for balance, a few tips for leading different ganchos or gancho combinations. So we hope that you have a great evening and a great weekend. See you potentially on Sunday for your next gancho in couple class. If not, have a great weekend and we'll see you next week. See you soon. Bye bye.